Before I dive into today's intro and what I want to talk about specifically today, I want to read you a quote from James Gunn to finally prove to you all how stupid and unintelligent modern day entertainment has become. Sometimes it's about what you don't say rather than what you do say. James Gunn on whether the Easter eggs on the set of Clayface mean anything or are canon. You really have to take it as something that an art department put together, because I never. First of all, there's a couple of things that I don't even think were on the set. Like that bat insignia. I think somebody put that there afterwards, but I haven't seen all those things. But they weren't something that came across my desk. Also, we have a guy, Phil, who is now in charge of the DCU Bible, of keeping everything consistent and making sure that the cities are the same and the maps are the same and the celebrities are the same. All the stuff that they need to keep consistent. And I don't think he's okayed all the art department stuff on that movie. Wow. Imagine publicly coming out and shifting the blame to your art department. I have so much respect for all the different departments it takes to make television and film, continuity, art, VFX, runners. It takes all of those people to make great entertainment. It's not their fault that the entertainment they're working on today is content instead of telling stories. But he has publicly come out and gone, "It's nothing to do with me, Governor. I'm only the head of this fucking studio. I'm only the co-CEO. Blame the art department." This is terrible. This is a bad look, because he knows how bad it is that Matt Reeves, the Batman crime saga, Batman insignia, was on the production, on the on-set location or wherever the picture was taken. He knows how bad it is, right? Instead of saying, "Look, I don't really want to discuss this. Wait until you see the film and you'll see what's actually in the film and what's not." It's a simple thing. That's what I would have said. That would have been the intelligent thing to say. Because the more panicked this man gets, the more shit he takes and more worse he makes a situation. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends, wives, and especially your boyfriends and your husbands. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad, X on Snapchat, BMouth60, and on TikTok, Mad Mickey's World. A very warm welcome to Monday's edition of the DCU Daily. You've seen the title of the video. I believe that I can run DC Studios better than James Gunn. Now, I've never been involved in mainstream Hollywood. My dad was. He worked for a studio. I've been on sets, but I don't know where all the nuts and bolts are. I don't know exactly everything it takes to make a movie. But to run DC Studios, I don't need to know any of that. All I know is, I know what makes a great story and a bad story. I know what entertains people and what doesn't entertain people. And unfortunately, people like James Gunn, who work in entertainment, who's running a bloody studio, even though it's just a logo, it's not even a real studio, DC Studios, absolutely clueless. Now, as you know, if you've been following me for a while, I always said it was dumb to come out from one connected franchise and going to another. It's like getting a divorce and getting married the next fucking day, right? They should have made individual movies. I believe that, with auteurs and creators who had a vision for these different DC characters. But I can promise you that I could have got a connected franchise more right than this guy. This guy put out a slate, then a few months later said, "Well, actually, just because I've given you a slate, it doesn't mean you're getting that stuff." That's insane. That's crazy. That makes no fucking sense. As I keep on saying, the more this geezer opens his mouth, the more trouble he gets himself in. They should never have launched the DCU with Superman. And if they were, James Gunn shouldn't have been the one to write and direct Superman. It was obvious that he's a one-trick pony, that he doesn't know how to make a Superman origin movie, right? That's why he didn't make a Superman origin movie, because he doesn't know how. He doesn't understand this character, or Batman, or Wonder Woman. He should have been in a little corner somewhere doing his own thing. So if I was running DC Studios, how would I have launched a franchise? Not that I think jumping into another connected franchise was the best of ideas. But anyway, first of all, my first movie wouldn't have been Superman, right? They tried doing that with the DCEU. A fine, brilliant Superman film. And in the end, because it didn't make the money they wanted it to make, they threw Batman into the mix, which I think was a mistake, although I love BVS. I would have launched the DCU, DC Studios, with a Green Arrow movie. I've mentioned this before. Green Arrow's perfect. Green Arrow's an interesting character because he started off in the comics like a bit of a joke with his arrow car and his arrow cave. But I think what you could do with an Arrow movie is have mixed the silliness with a grounded movie as well. It could be jokey and serious and grounded all at the same time. It could be a very, very entertaining movie. Now, the only reason that Marvel Studios launched with Iron Man is because they didn't have the rights to X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, or the Hulk. Because if I was running Marvel Studios and I had the rights to the Incredible Hulk would be the first character I launched with. Now, I think that the Incredible Hulk movie was their third or fourth movie. I can't remember now. And it's a solid movie. I like that movie. It could have been a much better movie. I would have made an epic Hulk movie, right? An epic Hulk movie. The Hulk has so much fucking potential. But anyway, I even like Ang Lee's Hulk. I think it's brilliant. I love the unconventional way he made that movie. But anyway, I would launch with Green Arrow. Green Arrow would be a solid movie. But no one would be going, if you don't make $1 billion, then you failed. But when you launch with a Superman movie, you're under immediate pressure. That's the situation with Cavill. He wasn't involved, he was involved, and he wasn't involved, and they cast David Corenswet. So already you've got this divide, Snyder fans, Cavill fans, and then you've got the Gunn Bros. You've got this divide within the fandom. You see, making entertainment is really difficult on modern day parameters in the way the entertainment industry want to make entertainment. They want to make content. They want to make politically correct content instead of telling stories. Now, they're not the only problem. The modern day audience are also a big problem. I see you all gasbagging on Twitter and some of the shit that you say. Imagine, in 2025, a movie called Beverly Hills Cop is released and Police Academy. In this Beverly Hills Cop movie, you've got Axel Foley being jokingly racist to white people. You'd have nerd Roddick and geeks and gamers Jeremy Prime going off on one. You'd have all right-wing YouTube. That movie would be doxxed before it even had a chance. That's the problem with the modern day environment we're in. The modern day, politically correct content ethos that the industry have got is a problem, and the attitude and the way that we can all just give our opinions on everything on social media has also damaged entertainment. It's actually damaged football as well. A conversation for another time. So yes, Green Arrow would be my launch movie. Absolutely. I think what Berlanti did with Arrowverse was very, very clever. We were saying, where's Superman? Why have they launched with Green Arrow? And I mean, I wanted Smallville to be this connected franchise. After Smallville ended, I wanted a bunch of Smallville spin-offs. I wanted Justin Hartley to play Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. But Stephen Amell's kind of Christopher Nolan-y kind of version of Green Arrow was absolutely, that first season, those first 2 seasons, are 2 of the best seasons, forget of comic book television, of television in general, but back then, television was made to be entertaining. They were telling stories instead of making politically correct content. And that's what happened to Arrowverse in the end. They went from telling great stories to telling politically correct stories. That's what the problem is with the entertainment industry. But the audience's reaction to that as well hasn't been good either. So there's a two-pronged problem within the industry today. You start off with Green Arrow. Then, I think you could make really interesting kind of grade B, C, D character stories and launch some kind of arc. For example, my Doomsday in my DCU for DC Studios will be DC's Incredible Hulk. I think it will be very interesting to do the Davis Bloom thing on the big screen, like they did on Smallville, but make it slightly different, right? But basically, he's a humanoid. He looks like a human being. I think the backstory of him being this experiment from Krypton is a good idea, and he's raised on Earth like Superman, but he's the opposite to Superman. I think that would be a very, very interesting story. There's lots of things you can do. I would do, because I wrote a reboot for Smallville called Smallville Metropolis, and I had the Doomsday Apocalypse, where we see flash forwards to Clark's future as Superman, and everyone's mutating into Doomsday creatures. Instead of becoming zombies, they're becoming Doomsday creatures, and it's called the Doomsday Apocalypse. That's something I would do in my DCU. I think that would be a very, very interesting arc, because you've got that horror movie vibe, and the horror movies are coming back in, as we know, so you kind of mix engineers. So there's a lot of interesting things you can do. But if I was running DC Studios, my first instinct wouldn't be to dive into a connected franchise. I would bring in the best writers, directors, who have got a vision of these DC characters. I would bring in fans who understand the comics, not comic book people, but people who love comics, to educate me about comics. Because I'm a movie and TV guy. I'm a movie and TV guru. I don't read books. I don't really read comics. So I don't have the knowledge you would need to. But bringing in fans to explain to me the depths of the comics and all the history of the comics would be very, very important. But I don't believe I need to know all of that stuff to run DC Studios. I need people around me who know that stuff. So I absolutely believe that I could do a better job running DC Studios than Mr. James Gunn and Mr. Peter Safran. They have got it horribly wrong. This should have been a clean reboot. It shouldn't have been a connected franchise. It should have just been a bunch of creatives doing their own thing. When Gunn first launched the DCU, he said that DC film and TV had been splintered for too long and he wanted to connect everything. The Marvel Studios approach that doesn't even work for Marvel Studios anymore. Without the splintered approach, there's no Batman 89, there's no Batman Returns, there's no Batman Forever, there's no Dark Knight trilogy, there's no Smallville, there's no Arrowverse, there's no Superman and Lois. Actually, James, DC has been doing quite well without that connected fucking approach. And that's the approach I want. I want a serious person running DC Studios that puts entertainment over political correctness and content. I don't want content. I don't just want things on streaming, any old shit. That's what the thing is today. Make any old shit. The ethos behind Gunn's Superman movie is make any old shit and call it Superman. That's the problem with that movie. That movie has no fucking heart. That movie has no fucking vision. There lies the problem. We have to go back to employing people who want to tell stories, not politically correct stories that end up being content. That's what we need. That's what I would employ at my DC studio. So I could easily kick off a connected universe, DC universe, much better than the shit James Gunn's doing. He has no fucking clue. I like the idea of a Swamp Thing movie, right? And these different characters. I mean, the Swamp Thing movie doesn't seem to be even happening anymore, right? I like the idea of an R-rated DCU movie. These are good ideas, but at the end of the day, it's all about execution. And I want to trust James Gunn to execute anything.